I mean, we talked about player housing for like a long time, right? Player housing has been on the World of Warcraft wishlist for just about forever. Periodically, ingenious players create and share concepts for how player housing could look. My work and would be also check out this extremely detailed concept from the appropriate names. I guess the garrisons were the closest thing we got to player housing. How many people actually still care about player housing? I mean, it would be cool, and it depends on how it's implemented, but it would have to be, I would imagine, it would have to be instance content. Kind of like how garrisons were. They would have to probably take place in the same kind of city. Although, let's think about from the perspective of, oh, we're living in Storming, right? And one of the houses is ours. Maybe I can make something like 5 storming houses, be houses that you know, you will live in, and one of them is yours. It's obviously instant. When you go in, it's your version of the house, and you customize it the way it is. That's how I would envision player housing. Nothing game with casual horizontal content, built-off features that this game already relies on, such as customization and collectible mainly used for that. We had this in the Garrison. Purely cosmetic, no player power or services. Well, yeah. Reuse 18 years worth of assets. Like, what assets would those be? Like old statues and stuff? Because we had some of them in the garrisons. Allow players to have somewhere to call their own and another way to visualize their achievements and memories. People have been playing for years and have become very invested into the world. That would be a one way to put the player housing. This is so cool though. And you can add furniture. Is this, oh, okay, this is putting it side by side on how you would actually, you know, take the concept of transmog and the concept of player housing, where you can when you can select, you know, the benches, the stuff. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it because of my camera, but I can turn it off for like a second. But this is kind of how it would look if you would, you know, put the appropriate rug that you want in, or the appropriate couch in. This is actually really cool. This is such a messy room, man. This is such a messy room. But it's, this could be so cool. The obvious comparison for player housing would be the Worlds of General Garrison, but I would look at the features introduced in Miss Pandaren instead. Housing would be a lot closer to Pandaren Farm than Garrisons. Scale back, smaller in size, and optional. However, it would make use of the entire world, including all of the old zones. If they're reusing assets, this is a lot more realistic in actually being doable, unless if they had to like reinvent everything of that. Plus, reusing assets makes sense because you're just using assets that exist in the world and makes you feel like you're a part of the world, instead of just, oh, this bench thing is you can only find it in my house, as opposed to like, hey man, come check my house. So this is the chair that, you know, you can find in Molten Core. You cannot find chairs in Molten Core, but I think you know what I mean. However, it would make use of the entire zones. The scope of the project would be similar to pet battles, which introduced in Mob, not limited to single expansion. It would be ongoing feature. Yep, I mean, we called for this a long time ago. Mostly focused on cosmetics and with limited utility. I think there has to be some kind of utility to player housing. Otherwise, I feel like people would give up on it after a couple of months. There has to be some kind of utility. Maybe it can be a rested place. Maybe it can have like a like a kitchen, so you can cook. You know, have like or like a leatherworking bench tool, so you can do your profession. So there has to be a reason outside of like, this is just pretty, that you can be inside of it. Otherwise, it would be just weird. It would be cool to like, oh, check my Afghan rug or whatever, right? But then, how long would that last? Like, people engage very little with garrison cosmetics to begin with, and the garrison had a lot of reasons to keep you in the actual garrison. So I feel like if they add some kind of utility, not player power based, but maybe you can do your professions there, but not in like the garrisons where it would generate profession resources for you, because that would be weird. That would be generating power for you. But it can enable you access some. Maybe you can have portals. Maybe they can add like a portal room where you can, go to Dalaran, or I don't know, like a capital that way you don't have a portal for normally. That could be cool. Have some kind of utility that's not world breaking or forces you to stay in 24/7. Comparing it to Garrison and how it differs, Garrisons was the heart of the expansion, was your base, and everything you did in WoD revolved around it. From a technical aspect, Garrisons had almost all aspects of the game included, from mini games with followers, PvE invasion mode, was pretty cool, as well as gathering, urban mining. This is where I think the Garrison sounded cool on paper, but it kind of trailed off because it kept you in, because you could just be pretty much self-sufficient as an average player. NPCs had new AI technology, tons of utility with different. This is something that they could probably take, but I don't know if you want NPCs in your house, right? IH bank vendors. Okay, you can have. I don't know if you would want the bank. I think bank is probably a little bit too much. You could have like you cannot have vendors in, right? Because you don't want NPCs in your house. It beats the purpose of the intimacy of housing, right? Your housing won't have all of that. It would be much smaller in scope, focusing on cosmetics, where you go in and collect furniture, reuse muzzles. Okay. Where it's located. The idea is that every zone will have a singular house in it. Claim a house in the world. So you can only have one. That makes sense. These buildings will reflect the zone that they are in, much like a tier set represents the raid it's from. This is actually interesting. I thought they would all kind of be... This is an interesting concept. I thought they would all kind of be situated in a capital city. I mean, that would have made sense. But obviously, you know, people live in all aspects of the world. Maybe Goldshire can have a house. Maybe Razor Hill in Durotar can have a house. Factions and Ogres in Outlands. This is actually so much cooler than I thought. With 100 zones, over 100 zones, plenty of options. This can be quite an endeavor, making the world feel alive. Definitely, this would be interesting. But then again, it would have to have a reason to be there. And okay, let's say you take a house in Blades Edge Mountains, right? In Outland. When would you go there? Why would you go there? And who would visit? Because the point of collecting cosmetics is to showcase them, right? You would have to showcase them to somebody. So there would have to be a reason for somebody to come in, and just seeing the cosmetics is, I guess, okay. But because the article basically puts into comparison the concept of transmogs and the concept of customizing your player housing. But the difference is that with transmog, people can actually see your transmog. And the purpose is like, oh yeah, sure, you see your transmog, but other people can look at it as like, oh, that's that one DK with all that frost armor. I know that guy's playing frost. So, you know what I mean? Possible to visit other houses in other zones, that if you don't own it, the house would face other players that the way the world is not full of empty houses. Well, I mean, you kind of... So wait, can you just go into people's houses then? So the way garrisons did it, if for anybody who hasn't played Worlds Adrenaline, is that you can visit your friend's garrison. You would have to go into a party. You would right-click their frame in the party, and you would say visit person's garrison or something like that, and it would phase you into that person's garrison, which is actually really cool. You could do the PV environment. You can see their whatever buildings and cosmetics and statues and everything. I would imagine that the technology for checking other players' housing would be somehow similar, because let's say your house is in Elwyn and you're in Ashenvale and you want to visit. And you want to go into the Ashenvale house. Whose house is it? Is it going to be an empty house, or is it going to be some of your friends' house that you can visit? The auction house will allow players to bid on making their house the... Oh, okay, this is public house for the week. This means the otherwise empty houses in the other zones will be filled with winners of these bids. Okay, this is interesting. This makes customizing your house have a purpose. So the auction house will allow players to bid on making their house the public house of the week. But you'd have to earn something, right? You have to earn, like, people would come in and vote for your house. Yeah, this is a cool house, and you'd get some kind of cosmetic points or whatever. You don't put it to visitors. The other houses you didn't purchase can be entered, and the other houses you didn't purchase can be entered, and they would be owned by different players. For example, if there's a house in Elwood Forest and you own it, it's instance for you, but a house in Ashenvale... Oh my god, it's the exact same example. What? Dude, great minds, great minds. Wouldn't be empty. On the auction house, you can bid to open it up on the server, making it public as if it's baked into the game itself. So what happens when somebody bids their house? Let's say Marcelian has a house on Ashenvale and I have a house on Ashenvale, and he bids more. He gets to showcase his house in Ashenvale. If I enter the Ashenvale house, would I go into his house or my house? For 1 week, resets with weekly raids. That way, the other properties and other zones are viewable by you, making the world alive. This would have restrictions. If made public, your property is locked and uneditable that week. Oh yeah, okay, see, so that's... I don't know about that, though. What if you can bid on every house in every zone, but I think that has to be... Okay, wait a minute. So if I have the Elwyn house, and I would bid on it, I would be bidding against everybody owning an Elwyn house. So then Elwyn will have one winner, Ashenvale will have another winner, Durotar will have another winner, and so on and so forth. Would that be kind of how this person envisions the concept of player housing? Although it's a much more interesting thing than, oh, it's just a random house in a city. Thus changing the property from personal to public, baking into the world map. You can only showcase... Yeah, but, you know, going into people's houses kind of... Can you imagine what people would do if they could have a private house? Take Gold Shard to the next level, man. The Gold Shard in. As the game goes on and more zones have property added, more people would buy houses in older zones. This is only if the technology allows it. If not, it would have to be instance, like, I think like kind of how I suggested at the beginning. But due to the limit of items you can place in a house, it should be fine. If everyone can have a garrison, this should work. Okay. Section 2, the actual house. I don't know. Some of these seem odd. Locking you out of your own house seems like a weird concept. Seems like a weird take on making people care. So if this week I have time to do my player housing and I'm locked out of the house because somebody else bid on it, but then next week I can enter my house, but for some reason, I don't know, I'm into progressing, I'm pushing some keys, and I don't really have time to edit my house. It's I don't know about that. These type of restrictions haven't been particularly successful in the past. So I think if they implement this bidding system, they would have to be in a way where you're not restricted from visiting your own house and editing it and whatever, because that I feel like that's a little bit silly. These buildings would be uniquely made, drawing inspiration from other buildings architecture in that zones. That sounds pretty cool. The house, so we can take the dragon riding customization where you can just have like all sorts of sections with different types of roofs. This is so cool. I dig this so much. Interior will focus on textures of colors, floor, wall, ceiling, unique. Okay, that's pretty cool. You can change it. Change it to this, to this. Ah, this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So I think that the fundamental customization of the house is fine in this concept. I think the showcasing it, I'm not entirely sold on. Well, another area so you can place decorations, so like a garden. Size like garrison to build based on preference. The Ashenvale example would be inspired by Night Elf architecture. Makes sense. Would be weird to put like a dwarf house in Ashenvale. Customization would include changing color of vines and other foliage. Each house will have its own original designs. May have balconies or open. Okay. So you'd have probably different templates of houses that you can say. Maybe there's like 5 Night Elf houses, and you pick one, and then you start optimizing it, changing its the roofs and things. You'll be able to unlock customization through the game, for example. Run Emerald Nightmare Raid to unlock a corrupt red color scheme for your Night Elf house. Yeah, or you can get like specific, I don't know, you can get like some red dark antlers that you can put on the wall, or like a red dark carpet or whatever. Incentivize the old world and great way to add some possible challenging content. That could be, this is it. I would dig this a lot. You'll be able to unlock all houses, however, you can only have one active house. Okay, you can unlock one and you can have one active one. Okay. All right, this is where it starts to fall apart for me, so I need to actually see this in practice, because property is considered a sanctuary, so no PvP, also gains rested bonus. But every person that visited, would that person be phased, or would you have like 5,000 people inside one house at one point? It doesn't even have to be 5,000, it can be like 100. And that's like 100 people yelling stupid stuff, having weird mugs. For the city to use services like bank auction operations, okay. For the actual building, focus on quality over quantity. Section 3, furniture and decorations. This goes into the furniture, into the actual assets. I assume it's talking about where you can get them, how you can change them, which is actually pretty cool. Maybe you have some quirk items that drop in specific raids. Leather professions can create certain ornaments, I guess. Can extend this class stuff. No NPCs like Garrison can use some pre-made kits. Collecting appearances, transmog wardrobe. Okay, so this is fairly similar to what we have right now. It just goes into all sorts of options to customize pretty much everything. Section 4, item limits. Okay, would imagine you cannot just fill a whole house with like 10,000 chairs. That would be weird. Or like 10 chairs and no table. Place the furniture, settle technical. Okay, this feels like a little bit neither here nor there, because you could have preset places in your house for furniture to go in, and people probably wouldn't mind. If like this table can only be placed on this side of the house, I don't know if people would mind it that much, because you could just change what type of table you have, I guess. I feel like this could be maybe a little bit too much. I don't know, maybe. Okay. But this is definitely interesting. I am still not sold on the way that you would have to showcase your house once you actually have it customized. So if the showcasing system is finicky, because it kind of makes me think of the public crafting orders, where if it's not particularly well fleshed out, then not a lot of people are going to engage with it, and at that point it just becomes slightly obsolete. So maybe to offset that, maybe you can have some kind of utility to the house. Like, you know, you can have one space for one portal. It can be a rested zone. You can have one profession table or two profession tables or two profession corners. You can put, you know, if you're a leather worker and an alchemist, you can have the alchemist lab in one corner of the house and the leather working bench on another different side. I think if you have that, I think it would be even better, since you have some reason to be there, and then you can still customize with the whole thing, right? So I guess this is, yeah. Hey, whatever version they add player housing, you know you're gonna get into it. That's gonna be cool.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classical retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.